Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video features a female dwarf? Okay.
Let the lesson begin.
Alright guys, welcome to the Mythic Hero Banner review impressions, Pathfinder, Dagr, everything all in one for today's video. Thankfully we have all the information needed to give you guys a good head start as to what exactly to do with the banner coming up. Things that I'm going to cover are the banner itself, Dagr the unit, some sample builds, how you can use Dagr, if she really is needed for you, that's an important one, and how Pathfinder could be used in a way to make your Aether Raids experience much better. So first things first, the actual banner itself, as you can see by the units in the bottom there, is hit or miss, I'd say. As with all legendary banners, trying to snipe a specific unit on a legendary banner without hundreds, and I mean hundreds of orbs, is risky, okay? You should go check out all the other math and summoning videos to kind of set your expectations accordingly, because random is random at the end of the day. And of course, I'll put some cards here so you can click and just get yourself informed. Ultimately, when you go into a legendary or mythic banner, always be comfortable with whatever the unit shares with. So take Dagr, for example. Here we have legendary Edelgard and Freya. And to be honest, that's a pretty good share. Both of those could be very useful for a wide variety of people. Between Edelgard being a fire core unit and Freya also giving you great additional scoring for Aether Raids, and Freya being a decent carry, I guess, as a unit. That's debatable, but anyways, so Dagr herself comes with a pretty decent banner here, and I would say she's interesting but not necessarily needed. She's more of what I would consider a sort of carry a mythic as opposed to utility mythic. And to be fair, Pathfinder is pretty good, but it kind of acts like Smite in a way. Like what Pathfinder is going to be working like, I would see it best used as a sort of Smite enabler, kind of the same idea. But I will cover Pathfinder later in the video, plus some examples of how it could be useful. But for now, let's talk about Dagr and what Dagr can possibly bring to the table. And that's going to start with her stats, and for those of you that are still kind of wondering about the weapon itself, it will be below here. She has a very offensive stat spread, I'd say similar to what like Freya had, Freya and I guess Regan in a way, or even Air, but has a lot more stats because she's a more recent unit. She gives res +5, similar to Air, and Light. So Light is an easier, in my opinion, season to play into because Air, Peony, and Mila are very powerful mythics. Freya is, again, debatable, but Dagr is still a very powerful mythic, but in a different way. So her stat spread is offensive oriented, and of course, she comes with this set of skills. So Sun Twin Wing is basically like a stronger null follow-up. That's pretty much it. It increases her damage and helps her win matchups. It's great if you want to use it on a carry or for cleanup, but beyond that, there's not much to it. Believe it or not, I actually feel like even Tempest and technically Odd Tempest too are great on her kit for enabling Pathfinder. And of course, we'll talk about that in a moment. So in terms of fodder, even Tempest attack speed push could technically be foddered off for, but I don't think so. With most mythics, you should keep them and increase your score if possible. Now here's a first sample build that I could see you guys using, which is essentially having her have as much as offensive stat spreads as you want. So like Fury 4 is great for this, Life and Death 4 is also potentially good, or Life and Death 3 or Life and Death Seal. What you want to do here is stack as much attack and speed as possible so that the debuffs on the enemy team like Bright Shrine, Chill Attack, and Chill Speed hit her. This is beneficial for her, unlike many other mythics who might be doing this, like let's say Air or Freya. You don't really want them to get hit by this sort of thing. So her getting hit by it is pretty good because her weapon is pretty much like Chaos Ragnall in this aspect where she just gets stronger the more she's debuffed. But if you wanted to use her more with carry, as a carry purpose, we're going to have to talk about that in a moment. Her B skill, though, does match her up pretty well against Yoon and Brammy if you choose to carry with her because of null follow-up being a solid counter to both of those, or at least easier to clean up, or possibly taking a hit from either of them. So there is some utility in that, but essentially Bright Shrine soaking is good for her and a decent way to use her. Another way to think about this is because she's an infantry mythic, you can use her in infantry pulse teams or Galeforce teams. Now, Air Force is a Galeforce strategy that you can use with air, which I can definitely see synergizing with Dagr, because all you really need to do is throw like a times pulse, quick impulse, and I think 1 or 2 infantry pulses combined with like heavy blade or flashing blade in the A slot, and you have yourself a solid mythic contributing to that strategy. Mila didn't really contribute to this. Dagr definitely does, and I feel like that can definitely help you with some cleanup or strategies in that aspect. And finally, the carry-ish build. Now, I am not fully for this, but it can work if you are giving her tons of merges, maybe summoner support, definitely in her bonus season. And generally speaking, it can work because null follow-up is great in the B scale, and her weapon definitely helps for this sort of purpose of carrying. But there is some consequences to this, and that is literally that she cannot benefit from blessings like the other carry units you choose to use. So she'll be lacking in HP and maybe lacking in some stats because she'll be missing on those blessings. As a carry unit in bonus though, I definitely could see this working. And honestly, you'll have yourself a pretty easy or good time here. Finally, I want to talk about Pathfinder itself. So that can sample idea here is like this, okay? So imagine you're in this sort of match here. If you have the 6th unit, let's say it's like Mila or something, whatever. The 6th unit is not so important. I just want to help you guys visualize how Pathfinder can be used. I feel like Pathfinder is good when you have a building obstructing a potential smite area. And pivot is potentially a good assist for her to get into a forward position so that you can take advantage of Pathfinder. In this particular example, let's assume it's turn 2, you got Even Tempest, and Walhart is your Dagr, because as of the recording of this video, I don't have Dagr and she's not released yet, but you can still visualize it. So here we go. So it's turn 2, you've positioned your units like this, Air has reposition, and the 2 units here who can definitely take advantage of Pathfinder will be the Dancer and Lyn, your initiation unit. So you move, let's say, Dagr into a position like this, enabling Pathfinder, which gives your units an additional space as long as the units go through it. Air can reposition Lyn, and because of that, Lyn can actually reach Nana here, and if she's running Disarm Trap, without fear of that trap, can initiate combat pretty easily, and of course with Peony can also take advantage of Pathfinder, but by walking through Dagr. So in a way, this is very good for some initiation player phase strategies for sure. I could see it working to get out of danger, and technically Smite kind of does similar things, but at least with Dagr you have 1 unit enabling potentially many units. The only ones that had to kind of do something here were reposition on Air, and Dagr just moving herself into position using Even Tempest. Remember, Walhart is the stand-in here, but essentially Pathfinder gives you more reach to make good initiation plays. Characters like Lyn or Air will definitely help quite a bit for getting your ball rolling, so to speak. But in terms of like tank strategies or just like enemy phase strategies, I don't find Pathfinder to do very much. It can help a little bit, especially maybe for like armor units who struggle to move around, so I guess that's kind of cool. But she's contributing res, so it helps some tank strategies. But realistically, the most utility you get out of her is Pathfinder and that res buff, and of course HP. So I don't know how she really ranks compared to Air or Peony or Mila or Freya, but I'll give you guys my best opinion. So let's jump into that. Alright guys, so the final thing I want to talk about is where I feel Dagr compares to the rest of the Light Mythics, and look at them overall to give yourself, good impression of where they stand. Now, as weird as this may look, because you might think newer characters or units are always power creep or better than older ones, that's not always the case. But units like Freya, just because they're the 5th, doesn't mean they're weak or unusable. So let's talk into specifically why each one here is where it is and how much longevity or viability these units have as mythic heroes that contribute to your Aether Raid's offense, scoring, and gameplay overall. Okay, so Peony, as with all fairies, I would say undoubtedly, is she provides dancing utility and mobility through the use of Gentle Dream. So it's kind of like Pathfinder or Dagr in a way, but providing and enabling sort of buffs and power for the rest of your team in almost all aspects. So I feel Peony is very powerful and is going to stay there in the first place for a while unless we literally get another dancer who is in Light who kind of can replicate what she does or better. And that could happen. But for now, Peony is by far the best enabler of so many strategies for the Light Mythics. Now, also, what really matters is how impactful that mythic might be to the defensive meta, or how well those mythics play into the defensive mythics. So that's where we'll get into Mila. Mila is a sort of mythic that's so high impact that she defines a defense mythic by herself. While literally in your team, she's not doing that much. However, Isolation is very good, and Nurturing Breath does provide some stats. Plus, she gives an extra turn, just for more error if you want it, more leeway. Realistically, Mila defines defense archetypes on Dark to the point where you have to consider her or you auto-lose in some aspects. So that Isolation plays really well into making Triandra much less effective and forces dancers like Eldigan to just be a staple on so many teams just to be able to keep that dancing consistency there. A lot of the best Triandras are basically just Wings of Mercy combat units that just like nuke instead of trying to rely on the dance. If she gets it, great. If she doesn't, just nuke. And that's why something like Mila is so important, because she provides buffs, she provides extra turn, she provides isolation. That's really good, and she defines dark defenses. And that's why she stands there highly on this list. Although herself, she's not doing much, but she just says, you have to respect me as a mythic. Finally, Air, despite being the first mythic in the game, is still very good because she can do a lot. She can define an actual strategy by herself. Okay, there's Air Force, so she will always have that as a way to like snipe front lines that are just too weak or aren't prepared for her. It's gotten a bit worse because obviously stuff like Linja is to be taken account for, Layla, and people are using far saves and such. Like, that strategy isn't as good as it used to be, but using Disarm Trap to open up different units has always been pretty good, and she's still good at cleanup if nothing else. On top of that, she can use Temari, which gives attack speed debuffs on the whole enemy team, providing long range support if needed. On top of this, she's colorless, she's a dagger, she has pretty neutral matchups, and what can I say? Like, she can be very flexible in what you need her to do. Being range really helps with this. And finally, I honestly would feel like Dagr stands in number 4, but this could definitely, that doesn't necessarily define her as being a bad light mythic. Because 4 and 5 you might think, oh wow, like that's not good, but realistically, if you use these mythics, I feel like Dagr and Freya demand merges and then have to be used or considered as a core carry unit in Light Season. So if you actually build something like Dagr as a distant counter carry unit, and not in bonus season, but just literally being able to support her with, let's say, Lancina or Corrin, or just like support in general, summoner supporter, give her tons of merges, flowers, and everything like that, all of a sudden she's going to start looking like much better, because null follow-up plays really well into the defense mythics. I mean, you're going to stop Brammy like that, you're going to stop Yoon, you're going to stop even Elwood because he relies on his impact effect. You might not win, but you definitely will like make that matchup much easier. And finally, like, Freya kind of stands in the same regard. So she's really good as well, but she's lacking null follow-up, and because she can't use it, she has to rely maybe on QR to guarantee doubles through impact. And you kind of want teams that support her in a cav aspect. Someone like Matilda with Word Cavalry, for example, could be a decent support. But honestly, they stand as carries, and because of that, they need teams designed around them as opposed to fitting into most team comps like the other mythics do, and therefore providing you that flexibility. Dagr herself at least provides utility, though, through Pathfinder, and that could be pretty good, or at least decent cleanup, if nothing else. But at the end of the day, I'm going to definitely say that the other light mythics are better. And if you have the other light mythics merged up, like Air, Peony, and Mila, I don't actually think you need Dagr in any aspect, nor do you really need Freya. But if you are like starting out as a new player, or you really want a huge bump in your scoring increase and you have like thousands of orbs, then this could be your shot to give yourself a huge score increase in Light Season with Freya and Dagr merges, because the value is there for sure. But if you already have an established light core of high merge Air Mythics, Air, Peony, and Mila, this banner is probably an easy skip. Okay, folks, that's going to be it from me. Hopefully I gave you like the best impression I could of what exactly this Mythic Banner has brought for us. I'm more excited to see what the Dark Mythic coming up will be, because honestly the Dark Mythics are really, really not solid, and they suffer compared to the quality of Light Mythics for sure. Anima and Astra is a totally different ball game. I feel it's more balanced, but here we are going to be in limbo for about 2 more months. Let me know what you think of Dagr or the Light season, the Dark Mythic season, whatever in general, in the comments below. Join the Twitch and Discord for further discussions, and give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one. Much love.
It's over.